welcome to another installment of Liberty Nation's Swamponomics videocast. I'm Andrew Moran, LN's economics correspondent. Each week, I dive into the morass of top economic news stories and fish out compelling narratives, or I retrieve fallacies that have been accepted as conventional wisdom by the swamp creatures for years. This week, hitting the US debt ceiling. It has been 2 years since Congress established a debt ceiling agreement that prevented the United States government from defaulting. But capping the national debt at $28.5 trillion will expire on July 31st. In a recent letter to Congress, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the US government could default if representatives failed to raise or extend the limit. This would also lead to a federal government shutdown, which, wouldn't be too bad. Should lawmakers be unable to meet Uncle Sam's debt obligations, the Treasury would be forced to employ extraordinary measures in August in order to pay for the government's financial and legal obligations. According to the former head of the Federal Reserve, the most important date on the calendar would be October 1st, the first day of the next fiscal year, since this would be when many of the government's obligations on the schedule are due. It is unclear how long these extraordinary measures would last. It was recently reported that the Treasury Department maintained a cash balance of more than $616 billion, and Yellen confirmed that it would have about $450 billion by the end of July. The White House also chimed in. Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters that President Joe Biden is not establishing a new deadline for congressional action, but she noted that Yellen was correct about issuing a call to action. Psaki said during a news conference, quote, "We certainly expect Congress to act in a bipartisan manner, as they did 3 times under the prior administration, to raise the debt limits." But hasn't the United States been through this political theater before? Yes. Despite warnings of economic catastrophes and market collapses, there's always some 11th hour agreement to avert a shutdown or a default. The closest came in 2011 when the GOP refused to pass a debt ceiling increase, which contributed to a sovereign credit rating downgrade. But the sky did not fall, people did not lose their 401ks, and politicians did not run out of money to waste. That said, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell recently noted that it will be challenging for any Republican to agree to raise the debt limit as Democrats apply a, quote, free-for-all for taxes and spending. But this is rich, considering that the GOP leadership failed to apply any fiscally conservative principles for the last 4 years. As always, it is a case of who is in power and who is in the opposition. History has shown, and it's on tape, when the Democrats are in power, Republicans are suddenly demanding fiscal responsibility. When the Republicans are back in power, it is the Democrats demanding some semblance of financial accountability. This happened with Bush, this occurred with Obama, it took place with Trump, and now it is happening under the Biden administration. By now, it is clear that the United States does not have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. Even before the coronavirus pandemic, the government was spending about $4 trillion a year and was running a deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars. In the aftermath of the COVID-19 public health crisis, the government is still spending trillions, and the current administration wants to spend trillions of dollars more. And, as is typically the case, Republicans and Democrats will strike a deal and kick the can down the road. But in the end, will the Federal Reserve continue to bail out Washington? Will voters finally demand respect for taxpayers? Will the federal budget ever return to balance? Before any of this happens, the US will be like Wile E. Coyote and fall off the fiscal cliff, plunging to an inflationary crisis. That's it for me this week. Please read my full Swamponomics column where I dive into the US debt ceiling, carbon capture, and the Olympic boondoggle in Tokyo. Thank you.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.